Attending to ourselves and our souls, so let us go before God in prayer to begin this time. Holy and gracious God, we give you praise. God, for all the ways in which you have traveled with us and brought us safely thus far, we say thank you. For the gift to attend to the parts of us that may need some care and attention, for the real world that can be stressful and unknown in so many ways. We thank you for your presence in and through it all. And we thank you for the gift of these two leaders, wise ones, caregivers, professionals, and their willingness to share their wisdom and their time and their space. Be with us, allow us all to be refreshed and renewed and supported as we journey this life in its complexities and in its beauty. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I want to welcome Nanisha and Dorothea, and we're just grateful to have this time together. I'm grateful for the ways in which we can learn with you and from you this day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you. So, thank you all for being here. I'll say a little bit about myself and the organization that I'm representing today. My name is Nanisha Marino. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I work with TAC, the Training and Counseling Center at St. Luke's. We have our main location downtown in Atlanta on Peachtree, and I serve as the clinical director over our clinical counseling program. And Dorothea, who's going to be speaking later, is over our CPE program, which they have a really great 30-week program going on right now. If you're interested about that, reach out. And I have been in the field probably for well over 20 years. I first started out in case management. Other than my work life, I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, and I have a husband, been married for 17 years. So, again, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. What I'm going to talk about today is just to kind of break down a lot about what goes on in our body when we're stressed. So I get the part where I talk about things that may not be so fluffy, but it's extremely important because many of us experience stress. Some people refer to good stress, when we talk about exercise and things like that. But then they're really talking about the stress where there are consequences for us in our bodies. And then hopefully it'll make sense too of why what Dorothea is going to be sharing works so well when it comes to compassion and mindfulness and things like that. So I'm just going to start off with the objectives for today. So my goal is to increase your understanding of our body's physiological response to stress. I want to be able to normalize the body's stress response and make sense of triggers. We're going to talk about that. And then also we're going to be able to define burnout, compassion fatigue, and look at the warning signs of that, and discuss how prevention reduces our suffering. So a question that I just want you to think about for a minute, and I took a couple of excerpts out of Dr. Kristen Neff's book, Self-Compassion. But there's a really great question in there that she asked, and that is, How do you treat yourself when you run into challenges in your life? Do you tend to ignore the fact that you're suffering and focus exclusively on fixing the problem, or do you stop to give yourself care and comfort? And there is a difference, one part, we're going to talk about that difference too. One part is, I get it that sometimes it's just so uncomfortable that we don't really want to sit with that feeling that we're feeling that we don't like. And then, on the other part, you have the opposite of what that looks like that we're going to get into is that ability of looking at, there's something very compassionate about being able to acknowledge your suffering yourself. You can think about, there are times when you might appreciate it when other people ask, are you okay? But it's like asking yourself, am I okay? And there's another line I'll throw out there too that I say a lot to folks, and that is, we're going through challenges and difficult times. The focus is really not about getting over it, but we're learning how to get through it. And that is I think that helps me keep things in perspective, especially when there's uncertainty and we don't know the time frame of how long we're going to be, whatever situation that we're in. So, let me define stress. So it's our body's response to pressure when we're dealing with challenges and threats. It involves changes affecting every system of our body and influences how we behave and feel. And again, it causes a lot of direct psychological and physiological impacts, even diseases or disorders. There are things about that. I'm not going to get into too much about that, but there is a part that I'm going to share that can make sense of that. That reduces our overall quality of life. So common stressors that I hear, especially right now during this time of the year, the anniversaries of significant dates of lose of loved ones that we've lost, relationship challenges and issues, politics in the news is a really big one right now, environmental climate issues are a stressor for many. Social or family gatherings can be stressors for some during this time of the year. Work or school-related stress, obviously. Health issues or financial stressors. And this is just a small list, right? There's actually going to be a lot more that we add to this. But just to kind of keep things in perspective, these are some of these common stressors. So there's this gift that we all have, our fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, and I'm still getting used to that one, that we have. And I say it's a gift because it's this thing we have within us to protect ourselves, to keep us on alert. We have the fight response is, basically for those individuals when they perceive that there's a threat or that they're in danger, their response is to go straight at it. And it may not be literally fighting, but it might just look like standing up for yourself or so. But facing that threatening thing, that person, whatever's happening in the moment. Then we have individuals, which is more like me, the freeze response. Individuals who just kind of go into, they almost look like shock and don't know what to do. I had not liked that part about myself for a long time. I could watch my child fall and be like, why did I just watch my child fall and not run over? That was my freeze response in the moment.
Or so you might hold the microphone because we get more time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry to interrupt. There we go.
How's this? Is this better?
So,
Okay. And then we have our flight response, and those are the individuals that just get the heck out of there. They want to get away from the situation. And that also could look like avoidance, too. It may not be literally running in a situation, but it might be distancing themselves. And or shutting down to avoid it. And then there's this fawning. And fawning is the response of pleading with the individual or the event in some way that's going on in the moment. Almost kind of like pleading for your life, bargaining in some way. And this all gets triggered in the middle part of our brain, right here. And when this part is triggered, the front part of our brain, where you and I are talking and thinking right now, shuts down. I tell folks, if you imagine a snooze button, that's what happens in our prefrontal cortex when this is alarmed and goes off. You know? So that's why a lot of times when people are triggered, when you're on the outside looking in, what they're doing and what they're saying doesn't make sense sometimes. They may look like they're tripping, you know, or so, because especially if you're not in fight or flight, or so. Sometimes the decision making doesn't seem as rational when we're in fight or flight mode, because we don't have access to the front part where we would do a lot of our executive thinking and stuff like that, and decision making. So when we're in, that's why we're going to talk about why it's so helpful to help yourself relax in some way. You know, of course, if you're in the face of a threat, that's different. But once you're not, helping yourself to kind of shift out of that state in the moment, we're going to get into. So we have the autonomic nervous system within our bodies, and the sympathetic nervous system is kind of like our accelerator of our body. So this is the one that controls a lot of our organs during the times of stress. You know, when we're stressed out, the adrenaline is pumping, it's releasing hormones, cortisol. And I say to folks, you know, even though this is a part that we need, you know, in terms of threat, sometimes though, if we're really on high alert and we're constantly being triggered or so, our body does not like having those hormones released too much. And that's when we start to see more of those complications of the health issues coming up, because it's not used to being activated so much. So in this part of our body, in the sympathetic nervous system, you know, a lot of our breathing becomes more restricted. It's kind of shallow, very quick or so. The heart's racing, blood pressure goes up when we're in this state, and there's a lot of muscle tension, there's sweating. A lot of things happen in our digestive system that shuts down. I've seen clients not understand why they are not eating, you know, have an appetite anymore when they're in fight or flight. They don't know they're in fight or flight, but that's what's really going on until we start to kind of talk about that. And then even, you know, with nausea, vomiting, loss of bladder control as well, is all activated in that state. And then we have the opposite of that is our parasympathetic nervous system, and that's like the decelerator of our body. So in that state, when we feel like the threat is passing, we start to go back into our normal breathing and heart rate in this stage. The digestion restores, the immune responses improve, blood pressure can improve. Another thing I wanted to point out to you that's pretty significant, some of you may already know or not, but I like to point this out that, you know, we have this vagal nerve that comes from our brainstem all the way through our, it signals, the nerve signal, it has signals between our brain and our heart and our digestive system. So we're talking about here, so when we're activated, you know, you're sending a message through that, throughout your body. So if you can picture that, that also starts to make sense of why these other parts of our bodies are getting triggered at that time. And so I just wanted to share that too. So I'm saying a lot about triggers. One thing I want to say about triggers is that you don't have to have trauma to have a trigger. I can be triggered by hearing a Christmas song, and it brings up a memory or so. And that memory doesn't have to be bad either. But basically the trigger is just any sound, sight, smell, change in light or temperature, just a few things that causes a reaction. You know, it's a lot of it is body memory too, though. The difference of you might hear about some folks who have trauma triggers. I think what makes theirs a little bit different, not a little, a lot, is that it's a really strong visceral reaction a lot of times because the body is bringing up a trauma from a past event and it has no concept of time. So the body in that moment does not know that it's not 2024 in that moment. If that trauma was in 1991, it's responding as if it's 1991 all over again in the same exact way. And so that's why it's a really strong visceral reactions that you see from people, what makes that a little bit different. They're also very sudden, intense, and they can be slow to fade in those states. Sometimes too, when we have triggers about something that we feel threatening, there could be a possibility that the perceived threat is really not harmful too. And sometimes it takes folks some time to be able to process that and to look at that, to see, is this really harmful to me? And I'm going to share an example in a common scenario about that. But speaking of common, I want to share with you maybe some common issues that could trigger responses in our workplaces or at school. So what I have here listed is that if there's a work or school environment that seems disorganized or unpredictable, some folks can be triggered by that and have a negative response and reaction to that. They might come in with expectations and are put off or offended by certain things in the environment that they see are not up to what they think is what they want, their desire, or their standard or so. If there's any harsh punitive discipline practices, if there's a lack of communication, that can be triggering for some folks. If there's an overall negative atmosphere or conflicts among student or staff members, that can be bring a lot of tension for folks and could be triggering to where they, their fight or flight could be triggered. They may only want to be in that space for a minute, or they may not want to talk to anybody around because they're in fight or flight mode, and it might be familiar in some way of a past place that they worked or so again. Or they might assume, because it's familiar, that they're going to have the same experience or so. Or if someone's feeling just a general lack of sense of emotional, physical safety too. These can be very triggering in our work and school environments. So a case scenario I want to share with you is that this is an example of how a trigger within our workplace or school can trigger someone's experience with their own family system, because that happens a lot too. Some of the common themes that come up with someone who is kind of reacting strongly with a colleague or another student in their environment could be issues with authority, not feeling seen when they're not feeling good enough, or if they're upset because they feel like there's a lack of accountability. These are actually issues tied to family systems, but a lot of people don't have that awareness of that's what's going on in the moment too. So the example is, I'm at a meeting and I share my idea with my supervisor, my instructor, and I feel that my idea is being dismissed, and I immediately get triggered. I start to have a thought in my head, and my thought is, they don't value my opinion. I'm tired of no one taking me seriously. So now I'm really starting to spiral here. And then I start to have a feeling as a result of my thought And that feeling is feeling ignored, undervalued, and I start to feel angry. And then I have a behavioral reaction as a result of my feeling. And this is all in 5 minutes. And my behavior is I start to shut down, distance myself, and have like a freeze response. Fight or flight kicks in. And then there's a body sensation I start to notice. I start to pay attention and notice I'm having some muscle tension in my neck and in my shoulders. So this is just one example of one event that can happen in a matter of a couple of minutes. And so if you can imagine if this goes on here and you don't take time to even notice any of these things happening with you, and you go into another space, bringing that with you, that's when we can kind of see that those things pile up. And there's a domino reaction that can happen with that. So something else I want to share with you about awareness with these triggers is that Dan Siegel is someone in our field who came up with this window of tolerance, which is really great. And it's basically outlining that there are things within a window that we can tolerate, even if it's not ideal situations. It's mostly manageable though, and we know how to get through it. And then there are things outside of our window, maybe in that hyper-arousal state, where in this state, it might look like panic, it might look like anger, what's some other common things that might look like there? Hypervigilance, we're really on edge or so, feeling stuck. That's when you know you're in that hyper-arousal state. And then there's the hypo-arousal state, just below it. And in that state, it's a lot more of numbing, where you might just feel like you're in a fog, a brain fog, daydreaming, maybe a lot more forgetful or inattentive. That's when we also know we're outside of our window, but on the lower end, of it. So these are really great things to be able to notice about yourself when you're going through something. Is this within my window of tolerance, or am I feeling like I'm outside? Am I on the high end of this? Am I on the low end of this? Too. And I'd like to, I'm going to throw this in there too, but when I'm working with individuals too, I also, tell them to check in with themselves using a rating scale. Some people may use 1 to 100. I just keep it simple, 1 to 10 too. And when you're going through a trigger or so, asking yourself, okay, what would you rate this trigger for you? Because without looking at things, breaking it down, we might respond and overgeneralize as if this event is a 10. And I tell folks, we don't want everything to be a 10. Because if you react to things like everything's a 10, it's going to be so much on you. And you're going to overgeneralize and feel like nothing's going right in your life. And maybe there's something that is, but it gets overlooked and minimized if we do that. So using a rating scale, we might be like, well, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about it, I didn't like it, but it's about an 8. So what are you going to do to help you get through it so you can lower this to at least a 5 or a 4? And I'm very intentional about that part because I don't want to set a disappointment up in thinking that you can get down to a 0. That's not the point of trying to fix something. And I think we can get very frustrated with ourselves in that process if we don't make it go away right away. And that's not encouraging if we get frustrated with ourselves. It's not a response we would do to someone else that we care about when we want to motivate them or encourage them, in terms of getting through something. So I wanted to throw that one out too. But the window of tolerance, like I said, is a really great way to looking at thinking about your zones. And then when you're using a coping skill, or a body technique like Ortega's going to show you, it'll help you think about, okay, when I use this technique, I can stay within my zone, or so. Or I might need to do this in additional to get back into my zone, So keeping those things in the forefront. Also, noticing body sensations too, again, having some words that are, having a vocabulary helps too. And I think it's great, you'll look some online, because I think there are things we probably don't think about in terms of all the different things that we can feel. And I'll do something real quick, and this is just a little small part of like a muscle relaxation someone might do. So if you take your fists and ball them up and squeeze them really tight and hold them for 5 seconds, and then let them go, and notice what you feel. You might notice a temperature change that was a little warm. After you let it go, you might notice some tingling or so in your hands. It might feel like a relief in some way. You might even notice how your skin felt when it was balled up too. If it was rough or if it was smooth in that moment. But this is just a small example of noticing sensations, temperature-wise, texture, other sensations in terms of if sharp, tingling, achy, sweaty, shaky, hard. There's so many different words we can use to describe. And this is just with our hands. I think I love to focus on my hands a lot, especially if I'm feeling nervous or so, because then I might put my hands down, pressure on an object like a desk in front of me, take a deep breath, and then I notice I can move in my hands. Oh, I'm not shaking anymore. So that's really like connecting with yourself in the moment and what's going on with your body. I think we think a lot about up here, just in our heads, and how they get better, but we have all of this. And as we know, when we ignore it, our body will shut down on us. It will speak up and say, hey, you've neglected me. And what about me? And so that's the great thing about noticing those body sensations to help you in those moments when you're feeling upset or so, to also check in with your body, and noticing, notice right now my heart is beating really fast. Right now, maybe I should sit down for a minute and just breathe. I notice that I'm pacing a lot, or so. Let me go get a drink of water. That is just examples of checking in with yourself at that moment, helping yourself get through it. It's not about distractions of trying to go do something else to take your mind off of it, watch TV. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to build your tolerance in that moment. So I always say to clients too, a lot of times when they come in, I say, well, the great news is that what you're sharing with me, I think, it's something that you'll be able to work through if you stick with it. The bad news is that it's not going to be the way that you expect it. Because I'm going to be teaching you how to tolerate this feeling that you don't like to. Because it's inevitable that it's going to come back in some different way, unfortunately. That's and I say unfortunately because just compassionately. But the other part of it is all our emotions serve a purpose. Yeah. And in some time, we'll come to appreciate that, even the ones we don't like. So how this healing happens, because of neuroplasticity, we have the ability to learn new things, and create new habits for ourselves. So just thinking of it in that way, there's a lot of intention that takes place in learning some of these practices, and being able to keep them up. And it's okay if we feel like, we're trying some things. It doesn't mean it doesn't work if you try it one time and another. I just tell folks, sometimes we just have to have different tools. And, it might work for this particular emotion, but then when you're feeling this emotion, you may not want that. You might want something different. So to keep that in mind too, be flexible with yourself as well. Because that consistency and doing it for a while, is giving yourself, some time to adjust. But by doing these body-centric techniques, and so, again, if you think about that, this is why it works, because it's helping to relax that part of our body and our brain that felt triggered to let the body and the brain know that the threat is past. You know, I think what else? So the next part I'm going to get into is about compassion fatigue and burnout, all stress related. But what I'm going to mention about this is just a couple other things, so you'll have some warning signs, and then keep in mind some prevention. So compassion fatigue is anytime we have like a spiritual, emotional, or physical depletion that's often experienced due to exposure to caring for others who are deeply in need. So this is really important for, especially, folks that are in the helping professions, such as ourselves, whether we're counselors, clergy members, or just working in particular settings, whether it's hospitals or other organizations where, like I said, there's a lot of individuals with deep needs. Compassion fatigue, they say, is a little less stigmatizing way to describe secondary traumatic stress, but they are very similar and sometimes used interchangeably. In that you'll hear folks talk about secondary traumatic stress when they're having exposure to witnessing someone who has gone through something traumatic. Sometimes you're sitting there with a sense of helplessness or so, and that could really get to us, especially if you bring it home with you, you're still thinking about it, because maybe you felt like you questioned, what was I doing, was it enough? Or so, you might have guilt or so too, because the people that you're helping are in their state and maybe lacking resources, and then you go home and you're like, look at me, I have all these resources, or so those are things to, to be mindful of in terms of how you're coping with it. So symptoms could be, you might have your own anxiety increased by listening to these stories or so, or after working with these individuals. You might again have these intrusive or negative thoughts or images, even about what they shared with you. You might have some fatigue, some physical complaints that come up. You may go the opposite in the hypoarousal state and numb, or start to feel a little bit detached or so. Feeling powerless or hopelessness, I talked about that. Helplessness. Concentration might change, difficulty with decision making, overall withdrawing from others or so. There was something else I wanted to point out too, and that is, one thing I do want to say that I think I said earlier about our fight or flight is that our body really does think that it's doing something good for us. It really does feel like it's doing us a favor. And even if we learn that there's some things that we would benefit from changing about how we respond to it, I think that the body just gravitates to the only thing that it knows how to do. And that's why we learn different techniques to kind of show it differently on what it can do. But it really is thinking that it's just protecting us. It's doing what it's designed to do. Burnout. So, burnout doesn't have to have anything to do with direct trauma exposure. Burnout is just an emotional exhaustion. It can be some depersonalization, feeling outside of yourself, a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. It can be often mostly work related, but a general occupational stress. But I brought this up too because burnout and compassion fatigue, the symptoms look very similar as well. So that's why I wanted to mention that. So factors that contribute to burnout could be your own experience, again, with stress from other and how you dealt with that and how others responded to it from prior workplaces, or your own history of trauma exposure or so. There are some vulnerabilities, they say, if your gender is female, if you have inexperience in the field that you're working in, you're more vulnerable to burnout. The frequency and how often you're exposed in the environment that is stressful to you makes us more vulnerable. The type of work and your age, a younger age, they say, makes you more vulnerable to experiencing burnout. And again, some of those things we talked about earlier that are, triggers in a work environment would be characteristic of contributing to burnout. All those things we mentioned, about lack of support, if there are barriers to being able to get your work done, unrealistic expectations, things like that. So those warning signs for burnout, constantly feeling on edge, poor boundaries, it's a big one too. The difficulty not knowing or not knowing how, or if you can say no, or set limits with self or with others. Other warning signs, addictions might start to come up as a way of coping, and other physical ailments, minimizing anger, feelings of professional inadequacy. So some prevention, of course, what we're doing now, training, education, is really helpful for this and prevention, to know the signs, know the symptoms, catch it, learn how to be proactive as much as you can. Self-care behaviors, learning how to create work-life balance, setting limits, being able to ask others for help and feeling okay in doing so. Taking breaks is a big one too. I'm so surprised sometimes when I find out how many people are not taking breaks even while they're stressed or so. Having an activity or a hobby. There are a lot of adults that don't do activities and hobbies, but I think we all have something we've been interested in at some point. And when we talk about that, we're like, yeah, I used to crochet. I would love to get back into that. So what's keeping you from doing that? So what do we need to do to get you set up to crochet again? Crochet doesn't have to be an all-day event. You can do that for 30 minutes, one time a week, just to start small, or so. Identifying people, places, or things to avoid that may not be good for you may be a part of that self-care for yourself as well. And of course, getting some counseling services, peer support or mentoring,
Reminder for
consultation.
the students, we've got funds, and TAC is one of our organizations that supports us with finding wonderful counselors. So just wanted to mention that out loud. It's been such a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, and we offer a discount for seminarians, active seminarians too. Your spiritual groups and organizational support are all a part of that prevention and treatment team for yourself. So there's another quote that I will end with by Dr. Kristen Neff, and she says, "Self-compassion is a gift available to anyone willing to open up to themselves. When we develop the habit of self-kindness, suffering becomes an opportunity to experience love and tenderness within." Dr. Kristen Neff, and she has a book that's really great called Self-Compassion. So my last question to you, for you to think about is, think of something compassionate you can do or say to yourself when you're going through a hard time. And that's all.
Thank you, Nanya.
You want to come right after, or you want to stop it?
Well, I want to take a moment, maybe take a moment to breathe. We've got tea if you want to take a drink, and then we can transition into the second half. Tanisha, thank you so very much. I love that question of what is it, the thing that you say? I've learned to try to remind myself that I can be my own friend, and it's okay, if I were talking to my friend, what would I say? And you're doing the best you can, right? That kind of reminder.
That's right.
It's a life changer. It really is.
Yeah.
So we'll take 2-3 minutes and just shift, and if you want to find a little place for a mat, or we'll shift the room around a little bit. Want to welcome, I know, Alex Evangelista and Dr. Marcia Riggs, Naomi McCuller are all joining us live. And just welcome you all. We're going to take just a couple seconds to rearrange a little bit, and then we'll move into our practices of mindfulness. There's some baked pastries out there.
They're online.
Yeah. They're in the.
I was like,
you're like, where are these people?
I mean, I was like, okay,
Like,
Dr.
you're
Riggs
welcome.
is here. All right. Happy birthday. No. No, but I'll take a break.
This is a good break.
Huh?
This is a good break to take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to say.
I wanted to be here.
Chocolate in the middle. I don't like
There was one that has chocolate with the regular.
It's hard to do. Hard not to do.
I've been eating like,
This one doesn't count.
it does, nothing counts, like, whatever I want to
Bring the music up a little bit more.
Welcome everyone. This wonderful presentation. Anisha talked about what is happening when we encounter stress in our bodies, in our brain, and how can we develop a lifestyle where we're not burning out, where we're not becoming compassion fatigued. And it's a commitment, it's a journey. My name is Dorothea Lotze. I'm originally from Germany, and I grew up in a Presbyterian church. And so when you're in a Presbyterian church as a child, you learn all the right and wrongs about religion and spirituality, but it sometimes doesn't sink in because the body is not so much included. So over my years, I came here when I was 29 after my MDiv in Germany. I went into the CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. I became an educator, and then I'm the pastor of the German church here in Atlanta. I'm the director, executive director, and CPE director at Training and Counseling Center. For the last 30 years I've been here, so I'm half German, half American. And I appreciate my Presbyterian backgrounds. It's great to have a good education. And then it is really important to become whole, so that body, mind, and spirit align, and that we don't forget the part of us that gets activated and tries to help us. And if we're not married to our body, we are missing a lot. So the last 30 years of my life has been learning to be married to my body after I was only thinking about my body. The last 5 years I have done a lot of trauma training. I have become a yoga teacher. I'm just finishing my 2-year training as a meditation teacher, mindfulness meditation teacher, because exercises like yoga, meditation are all trauma-informed living. Trauma-informed living means you prevent and heal the stressors that come at you and that you store in your body. The stressors can come from childhood. These are most traumatic leftovers that we can heal through therapeutic work and physical work. And stresses right now are just immense. Seasonal stresses, family of origin stresses, political stresses, student-related, work-related stressors. So what I want to do is not talk as much. I mean, I will talk, but I rather want to let you experience a mindful, in Germany we call it Achtsamkeit. Achtsamkeit or mindfulness means I'm paying attention. It's a lifestyle of attention where you experience intimacy with your body and you are actually married to your body. You make a commitment, like you would to another person, but you commit to your body and you pay attention. Like Anisha has mentioned, so much is happening automatically, and if our body doesn't get help, it will just do what it instinctively knows how to do: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And sometimes that is not very skillful because it has side effects. And if we don't help our body, it's like we're living in an estranged relationship where the other person has to survive on their own, and we are not lending them compassionate care, which an intimate relationship that is healthy has a mutuality. I pay attention to myself and to the other person. So our bodies try to help us, but if we don't pay attention, if you're not married and committed to our body, we miss the signals, and we're living in an estranged relationship with ourselves. So today is a moment of building intimacy with your body, and I want to do that practically. So the first part will be some stretching. I will not do full yoga, but so that everybody can participate. Our bodies are different. Everybody has a different body experience, so I want to make it that everyone can join. Secondly, I will practice breathing with us, because our breath is our biggest gift. We're the only species that can consciously change how we're breathing. You know, we have a lot of instinctual breath. We talked about stress breathing, where we go very, very shallow and very fast. But we are the only species that can be attuned and can practice calming and deepening our breath. I think that's the biggest gift we have, because it helps us communicate with our brain and our body, and is that intimate connection. Breathing is our love language. Breathing is how we have a conscious relationship, a mindful relationship within ourselves. So we will breathe and practice breathing. Then I want to practice, the Christian tradition has a long mindfulness practice called contemplative prayer. You probably know that. Taizé music, heart prayer, how to practice engaging in biblical themes, images, words, but not cognitively. How to bring it into our spiritual experience. So I want to do a moment of contemplative heart prayer. And then in the end of our time, I would love to do something called loving kindness practice. Loving kindness is originally 6,000 years old, comes from the Buddhist tradition, and it is now incorporated in the Western mindfulness practices. And in Christianity, sometimes we do not include ourselves. We say, yeah, love God and love the neighbor, and so we do intercessory prayer, and that's beautiful. But often we forgot loving kindness and prayer for ourselves. So loving kindness is starting with ourselves, building a loving, kind relationship. That's the intimacy with ourselves on a spiritual level. So we are praying for ourselves, and then we're praying for the other. The other could be a person I love, a person who is in need. It could be a person that I see on the news that I feel compassion for. It could be persons that I've never met, but I know they're in crisis. And can even be, Jesus talked about loving your enemy, how to extend loving kindness to someone that is really difficult for me. That's the ultimate practice of loving kindness. But we are starting today in a small way, and that's how I will close our time. So, thank you for joining me. We will do some stretching. I know all of you, most of you had finals, so you've been sitting for days and nights, sitting on your desk, doing nothing but writing and reading, and your bodies feel stuck. They're no longer flowing. So we want to get our bodies to get unstuck, because emotions, body, mind are all interconnected. Stretching is a small form of yoga, and you can do it on a chair, you can do it on the ground, and it gives you this going from stuckness, we talked about the hypoarousal, to going into the window of tolerance. So physically you can do that just by being aware. The first thing I would like for you to do is stretch to the ceiling. Just leave your shoulders down, only stretch out your arms. So that way, yes, you can do one or both arms, and then kind of gently put your arm backwards, and the other one too. You rotate your shoulders without lifting the shoulder. Keep the shoulders down, and again, stretch up. It feels so good. And the second one, try to reach the ceiling. Stretch, 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 stretch. And then carefully, one at a time, how your shoulders release a lot of the tension that you've been holding. Our shoulders and our hips are the areas where we hold the stress. That's why we're starting there. So now I would like for you to leave your shoulders down, but gently start rotating, maybe putting your hands on the shoulders, and just gently, one at a time, because you want to be mindful how each side feels. Maybe one of the sides is stiffer than the other. So as you gently listen, you're experiencing intimacy with your body. Your body's actually saying, wow, you're paying attention to me. And it loves that. Your body loves gentle attention. We're doing this to get rid of the stress that has accumulated while you were sitting day and night. And now we can try maybe to do it together. See how that feels. Just feel that if it hurts, slow down and make smaller circles. You never want to hurt yourself. This is the mindfulness is tenderness. Being tender with your body as if you're talking to a lover. So moving as if you're talking to someone that you really love and care about. Wonderful. Your back, the shoulder blades feel great. Now you can also maybe put the shoulder blades together by moving your arms vertically. Keep it kind of bent, but you can also stretch it out. Open up your chest. Some of you are holding a lot of tension in your heart, emotions, and when you stretch like this, the heart can open up. And to just be very gentle. It could be that when you do this exercise, the emotions that come up, you might have suddenly some tears of exhaustion, some tears of sadness, and that is okay. Because this gentle stretching releases what you haven't acknowledged. And by doing this wonderful, gentle work, you're physically helping your body release emotions. Very nice. Now let's do, hold one of your hands to stabilize on your leg. The other one goes up, and then you gently tilt to the side. Keep your body straight, and only the ribs are shifting. Don't hurt yourself, just lean gently into one direction. And your arm goes up, your shoulder stays down, and you just lay gently, and you're stretching out the heart space. Again, a lot of our emotions are held in our heart space. Stretching our ribs makes more space. Wonderful. And then you can go up and stretch one more time. Up in the sky. Breathe in. And breathe out. Wonderful. Now we're doing the other side. Stabilize with one hand on your leg. The other one goes up, up, up. Straight, straight, straight. And then you gently lean into the other direction. Your heart space loves to be stretched. Again, if you have fatigue, emotional fatigue, this creates physical space in your ribcage, and that is beautiful. Your emotions feel more spacious, your heart gets a relief, and it just feels amazing to your back that has been kind of lounging, and now stretch up in the sky. One more time, and come down. We do the same one more time, and now we do it with the breath. Thank you for reminding me. So let's breathe deeply while we're doing this. Again, other side. Reach up in the sky. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Take a deep breath in and out. Now you lean to one direction, opening up your heart space, your ribs. Just be gentle. Don't push it. We're not doing exercise here. You're just being married to our bodies and treating our bodies with respect and kindness. And we're stretching out the space for our upper body. And breathe in. And let it go, relax. One more time, up in the air, breathe in. And out. Now one more time, the other side. Up, 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 up. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Oh, that feels so good. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, you lean to the other side. Hold a little, as far as you can, don't push it. It should feel really yummy. And you breathe in. And you breathe out. And you thank your body for having been an amazing companion as you're writing your finals. And stretch out in the sky. And release. Very nice. Now we're doing the so-called cat and cow while we're sitting. That is amazing. If you've been sitting for days and you're either slumping forwards or you just are tired, this is for your spine. Your spine, as we heard, has a lot of nerves running through it. So if we keep our spine nimble, the flow of energy and flow of information is much better. And we want to help our body have a good flow of information. So put both of your hands on your knees, whether you're sitting or on the mat, and now you just kind of let your body go forward. Kind of let it hang. This is the cat. And now we're stretching out all the way back, opening up the chest, pulling back the shoulders, and look up and breathe in, a deep breath in. And now we let it fall forward, just stay upright, just get you the vertebrae of your spine, roll forward, breathe out, let your head hang. And then again, up, 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 straight, and bend backwards, open up your chest area, and breathe in. And as you breathe in, we're getting ready to roll forwards to the cat again, move forward and breathe out. Gently movements. And you feel it in your shoulders going kind of rolled up, breathe in, and you do it at your own pace. Whatever feels right. Some of us do it very slow. Others don't like to breathe so slow, they do it a little bit faster. And breathe out. This gives you this movement back that your spine needs to flow and have the nerve being able to communicate from your gut area through the heart into your brain. And it also helps release tension from the shoulders again. The shoulders and the hip are the areas where all the tension is. Very good. If you can, if you're flexible, take your right knee and kind of bring it up a little bit. If you're very flexible, bring it as close to your body as you can. If you're not so flexible, just as far it feels comfortable, and just hold. Nice. This gives a little bit of movement. You can do a little circle because your hip holds the stress. So if you are holding your leg and you're just going in this motion, your hip loves that. And again, sometimes emotions come up when we release tension in hip or shoulders. Don't be surprised. That is normal. That's why we're doing it. We're helping our body release all the stress and tension that feels tight. And our bodies are so kind. They hold and hold and hold for us. They love us. But if you don't love them back and don't help our body release, we are stiff and stuck, and our body eventually breaks down because it doesn't get help from us to release. It cannot release, it can only hold. It cannot release. our responsibility. So yoga, stretching, little things like this make all the difference. Now we take the other knee and pull it first up. You kind of feel your glutes and your hips say, yay, I'm being stretched out. And now you just again gently go in circles and breathe in and breathe out. If you align your breath with the movements, you're doing two things at the same time. You're not only releasing the hip area and all the crappy emotions that we hold there, but you're also calming down your stress brain. Because breath is the way, slow breathing is the way to tell our body, I'm safe, I'm calm, and I can release and relax. That is, sometimes we don't know, Lanisha said we don't know how to take a break. This is a beautiful way in 5 minutes to take a break. And you can do this at your desk. You don't have to stop doing what you're doing. You're just helping your body release. Wonderful. Now, I know a lot of you sitting at the computer, and our hands and our fingers do work that you don't even know they do. So let's stretch out our hands and kind of try to we did all the fist and the stretching. Now we do it a little bit more often. We just can make a fist and then let it go and stretch out your fingers. Oh, they love that because they have been cramping and typing and they really need to be stretched out. And it feels so good if you just stretch them out. Ah, they love that. And now we can help our arms and shoulders one more time. Keep your shoulders low, just stretch your arms out. See that you stretch your fingers and your arms now. And you're going 3, you're breathing in, 3 up. 1, 2, 3, and all the way up. And out breath. 1, 2, 3, and down. One more time, breathe in for 3. 1, 2, 3, all the way up and out. 1, 2, 3. Now every time you can close and open your hands, that gives it that extra little stretch. One more time while we are opening, closing our hands, while we're keeping our arms straight. And up. 1, 2, 3. And down. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Now we can bend it in so that our shoulders get a moment of relaxation. Then out. 1, 2, 3, and hold. And down. 1, 2, 3, and down. Very good. Now one more time, shoulder rolling, because we just had a little stress in our shoulders. Do the rolling of the shoulders in one direction. Maybe breathe in when you go up. Breathe out when you go down. Breathe in when you go up. Breathe out when you go down. Very nice. So now we are getting into our next. Now that we are in our body, and we already did some breathing exercises if you did that with us, but I want to teach you a mini break taking, especially when you got aroused, when you got stressed, you got a phone call, you had a run-in with someone, you just got watched the news, you are just kind of exhausted, or especially when your nervous system is up, hyper aroused, this is what you can do. I call it my 10-time deep breath. I'm sitting up on a chair or on the ground and I feel myself held. If I feel my feet on the ground, I'm going into my body, I'm mindful, and I feel gravity. I think gravity is an amazing experience. If you feel your feet held by the ground, or where you feel your body on the ground, on the mat, or on the chair, you actually are being held. You can see that as a spiritual experience. I am held in being. I do not have to hold myself. Just sitting is an experience of allowing to be held. And when I go into my body and practice going into my body sensations, that is a spiritual experience by itself. But my mind sometimes is racing, and I don't know how to calm my mind or my emotions. So what we can do is discipline our mind by counting. Because if I count, I can't obsess about my grades. I can't obsess about going home and having to meet my parents. If you want a break, even if it's just to calm your nervous system, this is the best way to do it. I use my fingers, counting to 10, so I don't have to think about that. I breathe in for 4, hold, out for 6. If I make my out breath a little longer than my in breath, I'm actually simulating sleeping. So within 3 minutes, you can get yourself from a hyperarousal, and you love your body, your brain, your nervous system. You said, come on, come on, come on. Let's do 10-time breathing. That's the most wonderful thing you do. As if you're taking a little kid that is totally exhausted and screams, you just take them into your arm and hold them. So the 10 times breath is that experience in your body. You know, I'm calming my inner child, my agitated nervous system, my brain, my body. And the breath is the best way to do it. And so let's do it together. I'm counting. If it feels uncomfortable, do your own breathing. There's never a must, a should in mindfulness, because you only know your body. And sometimes breathing with counting can be very stressful for trauma survivors. So just be gentle. If my counting is not helpful, do your own thing. Just follow your natural breath, because your body knows that it doesn't like to be counted, or your breath doesn't know. But if your body allows it, it's a beautiful practice to calm your brain and your body. So let's count, and I'm counting for us. I will do it 10 times. Check your body. It might still be a little bit stressed, and then I want you to check again after we do the 10 deep breaths to see if your body is more relaxed. It should be, or it could be, because we're pretending we're asleep. Let's do it. In for 4, out for 6. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. Now take the deepest breath you've taken all day. Fill up your tummy, fill up your heart space and your upper space, and release your upper heart space, your heart space, and your tummy. And now come to regular breathing. And what that does it refreshes you within a very short time. Sometimes I'm taking my deep breathing also on a walk. If I have the luxury of walking and not just sitting, sometimes we can do both, but if you do both, you can actually align your in and out breathing to your steps. So I'm counting my steps, which also keeps me from obsessing about my paper that I have to write or the work I have to do. I can discipline my brain to just focus on my steps, which is very mindful. And when I count, I can think about stressful things. And through aligning your steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, one step, that's the pause, and then you count, breathe out 6 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes when you go up the hill, just do 4 and 4. Otherwise you won't make it. So always just try to either make it the same amount or the out breath a little longer. So if you go flat, you can do 4 and 6. If you go up the hill, do 4 and 4. This is a beautiful exercise.
Here, in this case.
Okay. Okay, I'm always looking up there. Okay, I was looking up to God. No. Thank you for that. No, because I was trying to be so much in picture.
Yeah, you were doing great. I was like, oh, I knew that.
Because up there it's blinking. So, yes. So I want to, we have half an hour left. So I would like to start out with contemplative prayer, which is, when you do theology, you use your left brain. You learn how to think right about God. And the left brain is wonderful. We need to have information, we need to think right, we need to be disciplined, but it does not reach into your body. The information is staying here, and sometimes we have a hard time knowing how do I get what I know is good and right and makes sense into the rest of me. Contemplative practice, and especially contemplative heart prayer, is a way of honoring all of me while I'm practicing theology and spirituality. So kind of, it's like bringing my thinking, my feeling, and my body in sync. That's a beautiful practice. So this has been practiced in the Christian tradition in the monasteries for many, many centuries, and we are rediscovering it. And the heart prayer is basically going into either the stretching first, maybe then the deep breathing, and then you're beginning to take a Bible verse into that experience of grounding. You allow yourself to be held, you can lay down, it's a beautiful idea, or you just kind of prepare your body for the word. Sometimes we start with the word. I like to start with the body. Because if I start with the body, I'm creating a holding place for the word. Instead of trying to apply my word to the rest of life, that is sometimes hard, because first we want to honor what is, so that the word can speak into what is, instead of trying to change the world how I'm thinking. That is usually kind of theology. And spirituality is let the Spirit talk to you into your body. And that's what contemplative prayer is. So we're calming our left brain, which is our thinking brain, and we are opening up our right brain for spirituality. That means God encountering us in sensations, in emotions, and in the body. For Presbyterians, that is very strange. And if you think about some spiritualities, for example, in African traditions, dance is part of worship. You have charismatic churches where moving your body is very normal, because it creates a more holistic experience. But you don't have to be a charismatic or belong to a communal African culture to become embodied and to experience the word, your prayer, in more than thoughts. So let me put on some music. Okay. And while we are calming our body one more time, I will speak some heart prayer. You can choose a text that you love. I chose two. I chose for today one sentence from Jesus, from the New Testament. He is my door, even to the Old Testament. I cannot read anything of the Old Testament unless I read it through Jesus' eyes. But I chose an Old Testament and a New Testament word. And as we are kind of feeling ourselves again grounded on the floor, you can lay down, or you can sit in your chair. Again, open your heart, open your body, and calm your breath, so that the Word of God can really become like a music that enters into your body, not just your brain, but into your whole being. So I'm starting out with the New Testament saying from Jesus, and then I will go into the Old Testament words that are also very beautiful. And this is an example of heart prayer. Sometimes it helps to put on some music when our mind is too stressed out. Sometimes music helps to open up another part in our brain, to not just be thinking, but to actually allow sensations. Music opens up the heart and it activates other parts of our brains, so we can actually hear the word, not just as a word. The Word of God is alive. It wants to be embodied, and it wants to be felt, and it wants to be experienced. And that's what heart prayer is. If you will, you can either lower your gaze or close your eyes, whatever makes you more comfortable. And let's take a few deep breaths without counting. And if you can breathe into your belly, that's the deepest breathing you can do. Some of us can't do it, that's fine. But some of us can, especially singers. If you're in a choir, you know how to do this. So just breathe deeply when you start praying in this way. There's no expectation. You don't have to think. You just want to be. Imagine yourself in the presence of the spiritual, of God, of Jesus. You can maybe have a posture of receptivity. I sometimes like to open my hands as a sign of I'm here, I'm willing to just don't do anything but receive and pray and listen and experience. And then you just breathe deeply, calm your nervous system. This is how you enter the right part of your brain. That's the part that we have when we're little kids. We sense, we feel, and we calm. That's when Jesus said, becoming like little children. That's what he meant. Take some deep breaths. Let us pray together. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. to me. Come to me, all you who are weary and tired and exhausted and overwhelmed and scared and burdened. And I will give you rest. Rest. I will give you. You who are weary and exhausted and tired and overwhelmed and sad and scared. All of you, come to me, and I will give you rest and peace. And in Psalm 46:10, there's a beautiful saying from directly from Yahweh, from God, from the God Israel's and our God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know be still. Just be. Be still and know that I am God. Come to me, all you who are weary and sad, overwhelmed and scared and tired and burdened Allow the experience to be held in body, in heart, in soul, and in spirit. Take a few deep breaths in. Maybe wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Maybe a few more times. Whenever you're ready, come back to our shared space. We have a little bit more time. Shall I continue, or is that enough?
Do you want to do the loving kindness?
I was thinking about
That
it.
would be lovely.
Yes.
Can close this out. Thank you so much.
So we move from the more Christian tradition into a beautiful practice. It's kind of our intercessory prayer, but including ourselves. So as I guide you through a meditation, a guided meditation, which is mindfulness, you allow images to come up and nurture you. So guided meditation is a imagery nurturing for words. And then I will move into the loving kindness practice. First I will do wishes that are like prayer for myself. So I say I, so when you hear I, that's you. So you think about yourself. And then I will also say wishes for you. And you can decide who right now today is on your heart. It could be a loved one, it could be a neighbor, it could be your child. And you can also alternate. One time you say you and an image of your grandmother comes up. And then you say you and you have a loving kindness wish, and it could be your roommate. So whoever you choose to be that you, that is the flow. But you always come back to yourself. If you do not practice loving kindness with yourself and you do not receive the spiritual nurture, how do you want to give? You have to fill your own cup so that you can fill and flow over. And so loving kindness starts with self, with me, with you, individually, and then from there it flows to others. You can also include you as a collective. Think about humanity right now. Think about the people who lost the election. Think about the people that are still battling epidemics. Think about people who are in financial poverty. Think about, that will be global, but also you can just start small. Just make it today about you and maybe one loved one that especially needs your loving kindness, however you choose. I'm starting out with the guided meditation, and then I will go into the loving kindness practice. There is a light within us, a light as infinite as the heavens, a light that burns brightly. Sometimes, when I'm alone, completely still, I can sense this tenderness within me. And I feel its expansion, its gentle rhythmic dance throughout my body. This light, this tenderness, observing it mindfully moment This tenderness is at the core of my human form and deep within my psyche. I can sense this tenderness powerful when I rest, reflect, and restore in a place of peace and quiet. Tenderness is the fuel that keeps this light shining, the fuel that entices me to keep living. The philosopher Thomas Brown says, life is a pure flame, and we live by the invisible sun within us. Sometimes my light shrinks back to a flicker when I'm disconcerted or damaged in some way. And sometimes the light can barely be discerned, almost dimmed down to darkness. This happens when my heart is broken, or I'm in physical or emotional pain. But where there is breath, and where there is air, the light cannot diminish completely. Its glow can always fight through the grim, the bleak, and the sadness. And what I'm going through today is simply tutelage and resilience for tomorrow. Self-compassion is what I need. Love for myself and understanding of my own inadequacies. Patience to let them go. Self-forgiveness for my misdemeanors. Tenderness for my heartache. Sympathy for my distress. Empathy with my feelings. Kindness and generosity I need to give to myself and my body. No more tough judgment. No more harshness. Release of criticism. Have faith in my goodness. Reflect on my kindness and gift kindness to me. Sensing my feet touching the ground, the earth. Heftiness in my legs. The strength in my back, the weight in my shoulders, the heaviness in my arms, the sensations in my body as it lets go, breath by breath, relaxing, beat by beat. Eyes closed to diversion. Ears open to clarity. Lightness in my being. I'm feeling here, now, fully whole. Sounds arriving, thoughts coming and going, riding waves. Warm, cool, soft, quieting. A softness gently cascading down my spine, from my head to my toe. The breath cooling and warming. The pauses long and free. The mind untethered. The navel rising and contracting with every inhale and exhale. My body whispering, "You promised. You promised. No more. No more self-destructiveness. No more obstructive behavior. Power to rise. Strength to resume. Moments to thrive. Purpose to fulfill. Joy to be had. Compassion, acceptance, kindness, purpose, patience, practice, faith, time. I'm stronger than I could have ever imagined. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I be still. May my heart be tender. May my soul be soothed. May my wisdom deepen. May each step I take be with love and honor. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be still. May your heart be tender. May your soul be soothed. May your wisdom deepen. May each step you take be with love and honor. The poet Rumi reminds us, when light is in your heart, you will find your way home. When light is in your heart, you will find your way home. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I be free. Free from pain. Free from strain and old tensions. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free. Free from pain. Free from strain and old tensions. May I walk through this world in a state of grace, at ease and with an open heart. With tenderness towards myself, the light keeps burning brightly and always will. Amen.
Amen.
Will you all join me in thanking both Tia and Anisha for an amazing time of reflection? How are we feeling for those who might have welcomed one?
Just came out
Listen, no, worry not. It's going to be on their, we're doing the Facebook Live inside of the Columbia Life page, so you can watch it from the beginning in its totality. It'll be there waiting for you. But how are we feeling?
I'm feeling revived.
Yeah, loving kindness is one of my favorites.
Me too. I'm just so grateful for, I feel like both pieces dovetailed so lovely together, and what a gift to practice it and to close out a semester with some time of just being reminded that the light lives in us and we won't get lost. We will find our way home no matter where we go. This has been a true blessing. I want to thank those who are online, Dr. Riggs, who I just want to acknowledge her presence of being one of those humans that have made this place a place where folks can find home and their voice can be found, and just acknowledging her work, but also just what it means to gather with us online and together to do life. So thank you for TACT and all that you all are doing there. Just a reminder for those, TACT Training and Counseling Center at St. Luke's, did I get that part right? Is located based out of here in Atlanta. And they're one of our key partners when it comes to our mental health services. And that there is $300 set aside for every MDiv student for mental health services. And TAC is amazing at giving us a special rate that allows that to last even longer and have more of an impact each year. But just grateful for the partnership and excited. We are very excited, I would say, about the potential of starting some small groups in the spring where we can have therapy sessions here in small groups as they feel called together. We're doing some work around mentorship that will dovetail with the formation of these small groups, and just making sure we all journey this life together as best as possible and take care of our hearts and our minds and our spirits. And I've got nothing but gratitude and just want to thank you both for being here and doing the work that you do. Can you give that?
I just wanted to mention I'm starting a 30-week CPE program again in September. It's a 2-semester program, so you only have 10 hours a week in the urban environment, serving nonprofit organizations, experiencing people's spiritual care for people who experience homelessness and poverty. And the training is mindfulness based and also trauma informed. So a lot of what we have done today is part of the work and the learning. So I am currently interviewing people that want to do 2 semesters worth of CPE. And yeah, some build it into their curriculum, and because I'm slowing things down mindfully, you don't have overnight on calls, so you have normal sleep schedule, which is very healthy for our nervous system. And also you only do 10 hours a week and then 3 hours of education in the evenings online. So it's a hybrid program for people that work, have children, study, and they cannot, stress themselves too thin to do CPE.
That's an amazing gift. Thank you for that. And we'll be certain to share that for folks, because you're in the interview process now, so we want to make sure if you have a flyer, if you send it, I'll post it in our group. But blessings on your break as you prepare to just get some time of rest and rejuvenation, and blessings for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.